here was my thing. Like if I had a big client, like a big band, like All Shall Perish or Suicide Silence, or someone hitting me up for a MySpace layout, you bet your ass I would ask them to put Last House on the Left on their top 8 as part of the part of the deal.
That's a good deal.
Smart.
And
like
hey, you know, maybe we were only up there for a week or two, or maybe a month. But I legit remember like seeing traction when I did a All Shall Perish layout one time. I don't remember what it looks like at all, but they put us pretty high up there, and then we started getting a lot more views from that.
Real quick before getting into today's episode, just wanted to shout out a few quick things. First of all, we have a Patreon. For as low as $1.50 a month, you can get early access to these episodes as well as your name in the credits. And with the $5 tier, you can gain access to member-only channels in our Discord server, as well as be a part of the group calls that Yan and I do every second Friday. Secondly, we have merch. 2 designs that we absolutely love. You can find those over at indiemerchstore.com. And last but not least, we do these podcast recordings live on Twitch. So if you want to be a part of the conversation, see these as they happen. We do those every single Wednesday at 7 p.m. EST. Yeah, that's it. Links to everything I just mentioned will be in the description, along with links to our Discord server and our other socials. That's it. That's all I got to plug. Enjoy the episode. Daniel McBride, ladies and gentlemen, how are you doing, man? Welcome to the show.
Good. I'm going to push this camera back. I didn't realize my head would take up the entire frame.
I saw the reaction like instantly.
Yeah.
That was a bit of my bad. I'll squeeze you out there a bit.
Just a little, please. Thank you. Okay. All right. Let me try to get centered with the world here.
It needs to be kept in the actual episode because it was perfect. Like we started and I genuinely saw kind of just like, oh no.
The fear in a man's face.
I'm live. Yeah. Hi. Hello. Okay.
We are.
But yeah, happy to be here, y'all. Thanks for having me.
We're so glad that you're here. I mean, believe it or not, we absolutely love talking specifically about MySpace layouts, like artworks and stuff like that. Like that's an actual topic, and we share that. We both really love talking about that. So I think we have the perfect person to do that today. So,
man, well, thank you. You know, everybody knows how they work now. Like no one was really sitting there generating code out of the top of their head. Everyone was going in and viewing source and copying here and there, a little bit of that, and you'd figure it out. And same, you know, I wasn't like a web designer or a UX designer or anything. I was just a Photoshop guy who figured out how to slice and dice things, and you know, and then I put my name somewhere in there, you know, layout by McBride Design link, and you know, that was a smart move because, man, that became a thing really quick. And then it went away really quick. So you're talking about like a 5 or 6 year bubble tops of people making money off of doing that for, you know, clients and bands and stuff. But it was a fun ride while it lasted, for sure.
And it made a big difference too, right? Like while you guys were setting up for the show, like I was talking about that, it could make look like a very underground band, small project look signed. Just because they like truly like look legit, like if you're super big, but just with the artwork and then you click and you're like, oh no, they're not signed, you know. But or if they are, it's, you know, they're hiding it pretty well. But it would make a very big difference, and even I wouldn't even go as far as saying that the label would look at those things, like having a profile, like a label told me that back when I mean, the music was so bad, like it didn't really matter. But I remember them saying, "Oh, you know, your profile, if you," so it did matter back then. Back
it did, yeah,
the artwork
totally
and stuff.
And you had to keep it fresh too, you know. You know, most bigger bands that I was working with, they would want a new one every like 2 or 3 months. You know, you can't let things, or at least like a update or something. But yeah, I mean, to kind of jump in really quick, like, you know, I wasn't really when I started doing this, you know, I wasn't doing graphic design to make money or as a potential career. I was just doing it for my own band and our flyers and our layouts and our little GIF banners, whatever the fuck.
Look, if the graphic designer doesn't know how to say it, we're good.
Hey, yeah, no,
I feel better.
Yeah. Thank you.
Don't ask the French people here. We're not going to correct you on it.
I'm self-taught. No one ever taught me the correct pronunciation. So but look, that's kind of to my point too. Like I was just kind of figuring it out on my own. And people, I remember like the first band that reached out, they're called Veil of Nath now, but at the time it was Murder Comes in Rows, I think they were called. But this kid Vance from this band messages me and he's like, okay, you know Vance, awesome. He reaches out and he's like,
Veil,
okay, awesome. Yeah. He's like, hey, can you do one of these banners for my band? And I'll pay you like $25 or whatever it was at the time. And I was like, that was the first inkling of, I probably didn't even really know it at the time either, but that was the first like transaction of my design career. And it was because it just, someone saw my band's layout and our banners and it was like, who did this, and figured it out. But yeah, that stuff is very important. I mean, to your point also of labels looking at that sort of thing and bands looking, the perception is what we're talking about here. And perception is reality, as everybody knows. And yeah, if you had a clean, polished MySpace at the time, and instead of a white background with the default, little page, like your eyeballs are going to linger longer, your ears are going to be listening to music longer. It's going to be a funner experience. But yeah, I don't want to go too far into it. I'm sure you guys, there's just so much. There's just so much to it. Yeah. Honestly. But yeah, specifically to your point, it was extremely important at the time, and there weren't a lot of people doing that. Like it was D-Dub, Daniel Wagner, was doing a lot of the Media Scare bands. Like he was working for Media Scare at the time, and the Sons of Nero were like the kings that everyone aspired to be. But it eventually just became the thing. Like I'm a guy to go to for that kind of stuff. And I don't really know how it happened. I wish there was a way to still access all of our inboxes and go through old messages and see who we were actually talking to. But it all happened so quick. And then eventually just doing that kind of stuff for a living was great.
Did you have like a preference between, because I'm guessing sometimes it's like for an album cycle, so it's kind of, you know what I mean? You're going to have like the artwork and then you kind of match it with the entire page like and stuff like that.
Yeah, there was times where, the bands already had the art. That was probably towards the end when I started working with like larger bands. But at first, I was just kind of designing as I went. I'd find some cool foresty trees or something like that. And, even if it wasn't album related, it would just kind of set a vibe for a band. And that's been my whole thing, is just, obviously as a graphic designer in the music industry, you want to bring the music to life visually. But it was just kind of setting the tone, setting the vibe. And that's the most important part, is the presentation of everything.
For sure. And it's still the case, now. But, and I know it's going to be a difficult question maybe to answer. Do you have like a specific one that you're like, that's by far the one that I'm, the most, maybe like a full circle thing because of the band you work with, maybe like you're proud of the specific artwork or something? Is there like a one that stand out more than the rest? Or
if we're talking specifically about MySpace layouts or just graphic design in general, I think I think the most crucial one for me, I think, because here was my thing. Like if I had a big client, like a big band, like All Shall Perish or Suicide Silence, or someone hitting me up for a MySpace layout, you bet your ass I would ask them to put Last House on the Left on their top 8 as part of the the deal.
That's and a lot of I like that.
And hey, maybe I was only up there for a week or two. We were only up there for a week or two, or maybe a month, and we would kind of keep track. Kind of linger, and then eventually we're a little bit lower, and then we're a little bit lower, and then we're off. But
slowly,
that helped.
And
I
then
think
you send them a message. Hey, why'd you take us off the top 8?
Yeah. but I legit remember like seeing traction when I did a All Shall Perish layout one time. I don't remember what it looks like at all, but they put us pretty high up there, and then we started getting a lot more views from that. And um, yeah, I think, as far as like me getting my name out as someone to go to, I don't know how that happened. I just randomly get a message from somebody, or a AIM message from somebody that I didn't recognize, and yeah, but I mean, I was not charging shit back then. If I would have known how important these things were to bands, like how important the logo is to a band and how long they're going to be using it for, and
The amount of merch
how
they're gonna sell with it.
right.
You're like,
Yeah.
I could have made way more money than I did, probably.
I mean, yeah, I mean, honestly, I was just getting started, and there's a lot of graphic designers that are just getting started who think that the way to get work is to undercut everybody or anybody, but not in a nefarious way. But maybe they don't have the confidence to ask for a higher amount. Maybe they just think that, like, oh, I'll do it for cheap, and then hopefully they come back. Well, guess what? They're going to expect you to not charge much next time too. So yeah, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no one really on the business side showing me the ropes. I had some friends that would show me things in Photoshop, and I'd learn from. But as far as like how to run a business as a graphic designer, I just figured that out as I went. But man, we're talking like $25 logos, $75, $80 MySpace layouts at the beginning. I think the most I ever charged for a MySpace layout was like maybe 180 or 200. Maybe.
Even
That's
then, it's
crazy,
nothing.
yeah.
It's nothing.
Yeah.
Even that, you know what I mean? Like it's crazy. Do you? I know it's really specific questions, but do you remember the first time you received like a message and you almost couldn't believe it? Like a bigger band, like the first big thing that you were just like, what is happening? Do you remember which one it was?
Yeah, it doesn't have to do with MySpace layouts or graphic design, actually. But I got a AIM message randomly from someone I didn't recognize. And I don't know how they started off the conversation, but they were being a little like quirky with how they were talking, kind of, like really quick. Like, I was like, who the fuck is this? And he goes, this is Trevor from the Black Dahlia Murder. I'm like, no, it's fucking not. No, it's not. No, prove it. Like, I was like,
No,
I was
you're
like,
not.
prove it. Like I mean, when I was in Last House on the Left, like they were the band that everyone aspired to be. And then this before Suicide Silence and Job for a Cowboy came along, but Black Dahlia was on top there for a while, as far as I was concerned growing up in Albuquerque. I don't know, but I was like, no fucking way, this is Trevor. And so I'm like, prove it. Comment on the Last House page, like as Black Dahlia Murder. And he's like, okay. And then probably like 10 minutes later, I open up our comments, and sure enough, Black Dahlia Murder comment on our page. And it wasn't, it was like a tour pro tip, like tour pro tip number fucking 669 or whatever. And then it's like, how to eat for free on tour. Go into a gas station, make a hot dog, walk around and pretend like you're shopping. While you're doing this, eat the hot dog. Walk out of the store without paying for the hot dog. Works every time. It was something along those lines. And I'm just remember reading it and like, okay, all right. So you're clearly Trevor from the Black Dahlia Murder. What do you want? And I figured out that this is right before they brought in Shannon Lucas as their drummers, like their first drummer change. He must have found me on that website, sickdrummer.com or something like that, and was probably messaging a lot of drummers just to see if they wanted to audition or whatever. But I knew my limitations at the time, and there's no way I could play that shit. Like, I'm sorry, you gotta find somebody else. Like, that was just not. And I'm sure he messaged somebody else right after that. But that was that for that question for sure.
By the way, I love how specific the entire story and how well you remember the hot dog thing. Like, it's very specific.
That
and
stuck with me forever. Yeah, man. I mean, it's not every day. I think about it more now, obviously, but wild to say the least. Yeah, I never met the guy. Or actually, no, I take that back. I did. I sold them weed on their tour bus one time. Can I say that on here?
Yeah.
You can.
That was the funny story. That was like one of the Summer Slaughter tours that was sponsored by Cocaine Energy Drink. Do you guys remember Cocaine Energy? Did that make it up
I do
to
not.
Canada?
I really don't.
Probably not. it would legit, there's something in it that would, I've never done cocaine, I don't know how it works, but it would legit make the back of your throat like numb and tingly and like kind of painful. But I remember they had so much of it on their bus, like just the tour sponsors, so they just had, and they were pawning it off. They were like almost like a gag, like, "Hey, welcome to the bus. Hey, you want one of these? You should try one of these." Cocaine. And I just remember trying it. They were probably all just like waiting to see my reaction when I was just like casually like, "Oh, what?" Oh, and they're probably just all just cracking up in the back. But
Wow.
I never got to tell him that I was. I don't think he connected to that I was that guy that he had already talked to. But yeah, specifically that. And then I should have like printed and framed that, but again, we can't log into our old accounts and access anything from the 6-year, 7-year time period where everyone lived on MySpace.
The comment may be salvageable, maybe.
Sometimes, yes.
Wayback Machine, yeah. I wish I knew when it was. Yeah, I've tried to go on there a few times, and depending on how the Wayback Machine is cool, but depending on how the images were hosted at the time, a lot of people were hosting on like Image Bucket or like Photo Bucket or Tiny Pick, and all that shit's gone now, so it's wiped. But I was doing some stuff on a server that I still have now, so some of them are still salvageable to look at if you get on the Wayback Machine.
Yeah. Some of the layouts are still. I mean, it's like a bit.
I mean, you found that Suicide Silence one somehow.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah. So okay,
so
you're
there's
clearly
like the Suicide
Which, by
Silence
the way, is one of
one.
my favorite, because I've used, by the way, your artwork. I've done so many videos that I'm showing Suicide Silence at this point because I cannot shut up about Mitch. Or like in every single video, I show them, and your artwork is often there. I didn't know it was. It's super sick.
Awesome.
Man.
Yeah, that's my boys too. Yeah, they had a really
okay, I guess these are still hosted.
Okay,
it was part of it back then. It really was.
It could be worse. That I had to really look in for a second. Yeah, it could have been worse.
I've seen worse.
Okay. Yeah. There we go. The little GIF banners with the code box at the bottom. What that was like gold back then. If you had supportive fans to put their banner on your page, that was. That was it, man. Yeah.
These sort of things here. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. So important. And yeah, I figured those up pretty quick. I did that burning one. I did most of those actually, probably, but yeah, man, that was gold currency in the MySpace Wild West.
Is it fair to say that it was literally the beginning of GIFs in general? Like, am I crazy? Like, it wasn't really that much of a thing. Like, maybe it's like, just my memory, but
there was like in the early age of like GeoCities and Angel Fire, like as far as like making your own website, that goes far pretty back. But like, you could decorate your webpage with little dancing little GIF things, but there were little sprites or whatever. But that's another thing too. Like cable internet came out during MySpace too, so you were kind of limited in the earlier days of how high quality the images can be and how much shit you can put out there, because a lot of people, they would just try to go onto your page and your fucking computer would crash because you're still on a computer from 1998 on 56 internet. Phone. Yeah, exactly. So then you get to that page, just like it takes you like 6 minutes to just even load the page so you can scroll. So towards the end there, yeah, everyone's internet got a little bit better. I think they could handle the load, but yeah, because
it's a good point, by the way. Like I forgot about that, but you're right. Sometimes you would click on a profile and it would take forever to kind of just look, because there was so much on it, like I'm sure you remember some layout were pretty long.
Better look fucking cool, or else.
Yeah, I was totally.
And then it's nothing.
The header eventually got it started like that, and then eventually like the whole first page is just the header, and then they figured out how to put the player on top of the header and like move the header and that was all just like I said earlier, just copying and pasting, like how did this person do this, and then take that little piece of code. I don't know if this is like illegal to steal people's code or whatever, but whatever. That's how it worked, man. That was everyone was then, that was exactly, that was standard operating procedure for MySpace. But we all still remember the little code these days. I'm sure we could all still throw up an image and link it.
We didn't have Chat GPT back then, so it'd be a whole lot easier now.
For sure.
There's no need to memorize any of that stuff anymore. Yeah, it's all no one needs to use brain capacity to like restore information anymore. It's just like, oh, let me just access that information on here. Oh, here's the you know what I mean? So and we were talking earlier before we hopped on too, about for me anyway, I'm 40, so MySpace wasn't a thing until like my first year at college, and it sounds like you guys went through high school with that being a thing, and I was just tripping out on like how much more crazy high school would have been if everyone could just like message each other and get on their little flip phones and text and stuff like that. I didn't have that, so that had to have been a trip, and especially for shows and linking up outside of school at a show and inviting people to the shows. That must have been great.
It was.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't want to cut
Yeah,
you
no.
off, but like it really was. Like I'm going to speak. Maybe you too dumb, but like I would literally go back then. You would have like computers classes, like rooms full of computer, and it would be like a class in high school, and we would go there like and the entire time I would be on MySpace. Like I remember I was in grade 5 or whatever, and and most
Wow,
of
5?
a lot of
It's like last year of high school
Fine.
here. Yeah, it's like kind of fucked up.
Okay.
Basically,
I see. Okay. I
grade.
thought you meant like 5th
I don't
grade.
know,
Like,
to college.
Grade
Yeah.
11. I guess it's like grade 11,
Okay.
grade 12. Yeah, like last
Okay,
year.
Because here we say 5, but it's just, it's the last
Interesting.
year of high school.
Okay. That would have been funny. Like 5th graders using MySpace is what as in like 10 or 11-year-olds. That's what I thought you were saying. I was like, Jesus.
I would have been younger, but yeah, it was awesome. But at the same time, the teachers would be kind of worried because like a few of us, like those, sometimes they were graphic, right? Like the pages and stuff like that. So they would talk like a kind of crazy.
We were on my Wayback Machine for 2.5 seconds and we saw some tits and ass, man.
Yes. So that's, it was definitely part of it, but it was a trip. To be fair though, in terms of phone, it was kind of just starting. In my case, like I just, my first cell phone, I was like 16, 17, maybe like, so towards the end.
And even then you speak of this, but you're 2 years younger than I am. And even for me, it was like, just the last 2, like year and a half, tops 2 years of being in high school that MySpace was really a thing. For me at least. And like getting
or at least even just having the internet in your pocket, even like yeah, awesome.
I was so proud because like we would like, it was embarrassing, but like we would do music and then you could upload anything on MySpace and I would be like, that's it sounds horrible, but I was so proud of just being like, oh, it's my MySpace profile, you know what I mean? So it was a trip in that sense. It was the beginning of having your own pages and being able to do something with that, even though in our cases it would have been better without it. But
it was the first it was like the first avenue of people being able to express themselves visually without having to do the same like in real life, I guess, if you want to get really deep about it. Like you could be an entirely, as weird as it is to say, if you wanted to, there's a lot of people doing it. Just you're an entirely different person on MySpace with a completely different name and avatar, and in real life you're Joey or whatever. But that was I think a lot of people, it took a certain mindset for those people to see that as a opportunity, like you're like, oh wow, there's this whole world online on MySpace, or I don't have to be me. I can just be someone else. That's a trip to think about. And you'd be going through people and you didn't have to use a real name. So like Facebook, when Facebook came along, it was like, no, you are who you are. That's the only way you can sign up. So
and you gotta tag your mom and your grandma in your things too,
right?
And say what relationship status you're. It's like all this personal information. All of a sudden, that was like completely the opposite of what MySpace was, right?
Exactly. Yeah, but man, it really truly was its own little world, and I was fortunate enough to find a little bubble that I could exist in and flourish while it lasted, but. Man, and then just D-Day comes and all your clients hit you up on the same day, like, "Hey, our layout just like updated to some new look. Like, what do we do?" And I'm just like,
just a quick second to talk about the sponsor of today's episode. indie merch store. Signs of the Swarm are releasing their brand new album To Rid Myself of Truth on October 2nd. We'll be going out on tour with support from Mental Cruelty, 1056, Carcosa, and Face Yourself all across the US and select Canada dates. You can pre-order the brand new album alongside a limited edition vinyl, flag, long sleeve hoodie, and t-shirts all over at indiemerchstore.com. Synestia also have a brand new EP dropping on November 3rd, and to celebrate, they have put out a bunch of brand new designs also at indiemerchstore.com. You can use code BRUTALITY at checkout for 10% off your entire order. This applies to pre-order items as well. Again, that's code BRUTALITY at checkout for 10% off. Big thank you to Indie Merch Store for sponsoring this episode. And now, back to the show. Can we kind of linger on that? Because that's something I was like particularly curious about. Because we always always talk about like the death of MySpace and just the shift into the new style of profiles to begin with and all this stuff. But for you, it was like that was like a part of your livelihood, right? So like and like you just explained, like everyone's hitting you up at the same time. Like what the fuck's going on? Like how was that for you? Like
at the time, I was like. I was working for Sumerian at the time. I wasn't a full-on employee, but I was doing most of the work. And it got to a point where I was doing so much work for them that they eventually just hired me. But that was right around the time where I was handling like the roster wasn't very big at the time, but I remember it was like in November, I'm going into like PTSD mode right now. I'm like, it's like November 2010 and here I am at my desk. I can still see it to this day. And then just Sean at Sumerian hitting me up like, yo, dude, everything looks like shit now. What do we do? Like, or something along those lines. And like, let me check really quick. And then, it took a while to navigate how to get around that and with how limited it was from then on. And we tried, but I think like the exodus really happened. Like that didn't last very long. Like people got out of there pretty fucking quick. Like if that was in November of 2010, I want to say like everyone was out of there by spring of the following year. Like it's just like what's
not even 6 months type of thing. Like everyone was like, fuck this shit.
And it was just like it wasn't any kind of like organized like, oh, let's boycott MySpace or like everyone delete your account. It was just literally like the hive mind just be like, no, we're out, we're on to the next thing, like and flying off to the next tree. So that was a trip too, like from a sociology point of view too, like what happens when and like ancient cities that just run out of resources and then everyone's like just figures out at the same time, oh, I better go somewhere else where I can thrive and live my life. You know what I mean? That's exactly what happened. It was like a mass exodus of just people all in the same wavelength.
Because it was people's like it was their entire online presence was there, right? Like it wasn't just an easy thing to be like if me and you want to get off of MySpace and we're just like two regular jackoffs and whatever, right? But for like bands where their entire presence is that's their platform, that I can imagine a lot of those discussions being like, okay, but what the fuck do we do now? Like what do we do, right?
I mean it's almost like, well, I mean, the TikTok ban, I don't know if that was even going to affect Canadians at all, but I mean, people are making legit money off of TikTok. Yeah. People were getting people to be aware of their product on MySpace, but there weren't any paid ads or, ad infused content or that wasn't a thing. But, if TikTok were just to randomly completely go to shit overnight and people freak out, like that's more of an impact, I guess, because so many people are making money. But either way, it still applies.
But I mean, for bands, it's still like that's how you got the word out for your new album, for your tours, for ticket sales, for all this stuff. Still, right? Even if it's not like a direct link as much as it is now, I still feel like as like, what do you go? No band truly like became unknown after MySpace, right? Like that's not what ultimately happened, but like it I'm sure that went through a lot of people's minds, right?
People weren't preparing for it in that, no one really knew at that point when everything switched over to 2.0 or whatever, like no one really knew that like, okay, everyone's going to leave this platform and go somewhere else. I better start navigating them somewhere else. Like maybe some smart bands did it. We're like, hey, just so you know, like this is going to go to shit and we need y'all to go onto Facebook really quick and follow us. But by the time bands were doing that, it was already a ghost town. You know, by the time bands caught on to like, oh shit, how do I get them somewhere else? And then we couldn't even put music on Facebook. Like there's YouTube. Yeah, you could post a YouTube clip to your fucking Facebook wall, but everyone was fucked unless you had a website that people were actively going to on a regular basis. Like there was no way for anyone to plan on how to deal with that.
Yeah, I often call it the biggest downgrade in history, but like, especially for artists, it's like it was horrible. But the thing is, you know, you mentioned being able to, you know, follow your bands and stuff like that. It was cool because they would, I'm sure you remember that they would put within their names, like looking for a bassist in studio.
New song out now. Yeah.
New song, like signed to Rise Records.
New
like
pre-production track up.
Demo soon. Like it's just, you know, that was because it's similar to Messenger, right? The old MSN thing. Like that's what people would do. Like, you know, you would post like in your name, it would be written like at the theater, but like something like that. So it was a way just to tell people basically what you're up to type thing, as opposed to a story or whatever. So when it went to Facebook, it's just
Facebook kind of started that way though, right? It was what was the initial tagline is like your name, and then it was like is feeling like, or is it was like some weird like tagline always before the text you would enter.
But people would just post, right? They would just like do. At first, it was just. I don't know if you guys remember that. It started. It wasn't always a picture. Now, if people are posting on Facebook, they had like a picture. But back then, people would just write a lot of the times like I'm at this place or I'm doing this. Like the replacement was like post, which is kind of awkward to do in a way.
People wanted people to know where they were and what they were doing. Like I'm here, tagged location, which is, you know, it totally horrible for a lot of people. Like, you know, I don't want people to know exactly where I am and at what time. Like that's looking back on it, but that was the cool thing. It's like, oh, I'm at the club with all 5 of my friends and tagging them all, and fucking we're getting hammered. And then
now they track all that for you. You don't got to do anything for it to happen.
Oh, they know. Yeah, that's for sure. But yeah, I remember some bands honestly were pretty ahead of the curve, because Facebook started way before obviously 2010, 2011, right? So I fully remember. Well, I go often on the Wayback Machine, and some bands would say follow us on Facebook, but even prior to the change, prior to the new layout and stuff like that. So I'm guessing some of the bands who were ahead and already had kind of a following on Facebook were not as affected by the transition,
it was
is what I would say.
The younger newer wave of bands. I mean, even today, I mean, if you look at like my generation trying to get, you know, on TikTok and figure out how to use it and make a living doing it, like that was a lot of people were kind of stuck there. Like, oh, you want me to learn a new fucking program and restart all over again? Like, what's the point? That's why there's still people using Facebook right now, even though that's clearly, you know, eventually going to phase out. The worst way for a human to consume information and content right now. I was watching my friend like just doom scroll one time, and it was just and it was kind of a peaking, because I deleted Facebook from my phone. I just check my messages now and then, but the shit that's on there and the fake AI everything, and here's this giant cat. Oh, look at this giant cat. And you're like, that's AI generated giant cat. That's not real. People are thinking this is real, and all that stuff now. Like there was no room for misinformation on MySpace. You know, so that's the other thing too. Like MySpace checked out before the internet got really weird, and a lot of nefarious people hopped on the internet and figured out like, oh, I can scam people or make money. Like that was a protected little safe space for people. Yeah,
it was cooler and more fun. And you mentioned something else too, way less ads, and just, you know what I mean, like it wasn't as it is
there were ads, but you knew where they were, and if you had a ad blocker, like most people had ad blockers, they just literally disappeared. But they weren't like forced into anything, and like they are now. But
You weren't waiting through a couple 30-second ads before going up onto a profile, as it is with most social media now.
right, and then back to the point about people making money off of TikTok now. Like, maybe some bands were, well, there's some funny sponsorships that MySpace bands had. Like, they were sponsored by Chronic energy drink, which is an amazing energy drink, but it was only a thing for like 3 years. Or some bands were sponsored by Fleshlight. I almost said flashlight, not flashlight, fleshlight. Like goofy shit. But then they would promote that, but they weren't getting anything. They weren't getting paid. They were getting like a box of promo shit one time, or a box of energy drinks one time, and then they thought it was cool to be like, oh, we're endorsed by. I mean, I'm saying this because we were guilty of it too, but that was a cool flex for bands to be like, oh, we're sponsored by this shitty clothing brand that you know what I mean? It's like the worst designs possible, but we're sponsored by a clothing brand. It just goes back to the whole perception thing.
I was about to say that it was a big thing. Like, I would personally look at the sponsors and stuff like that, like back then, a band sponsored by like Drop Dead, it was just like, oh shit, you know what I mean? Like those kinds of sponsors that people were looking for, sponsored by Orange and stuff like that.
Right.
Over time, you understand that most of the time they get signed to a label and then they just have sponsors for their gears. It comes with it most of the time. But to me, it was always like, oh shit, they're with this and this. Like it's another big, you could be underground and then you're not fully sponsored, but you have some sort of deals where you can put their name and then you look like you're sponsored. Like, I feel like there was a lot of that made up labels. Do you guys remember that? Like, you would see
still a thing. It's still a thing.
Yeah. It's still a thing. Like Bloodborne /Wing label, and you're like, what is?
They're doing an incredible disservice to them, because in the event that an A&R comes around looking at their stuff, and when they're like, damn, this band's really good. Oh shit, they're signed to Bloodborne Body Bloody Records or whatever, and then on to the next band. So you know what I mean?
Maybe they pay the fake label a buyout. Who knows?
Yeah, or bands are still doing it on
the money.
Yeah, bands are still doing it on Spotify. They're uploading their stuff and it asks you what record label are, and they'll just make up something like whimsical, like their dog's name or whatever. But still, you should put copyright band name if you're trying to get signed, if you're trying to get eyes on you, make it known that you're not signed. That was I don't know where I was going with that, but don't ever do that. If you're a band, don't ever make up a label. Like, just own that you're unsigned, and that's how you'll become bigger.
Well, it's almost even more of a flex too. Like, if you did a lot and it's good and you feel like you're at the step of being signed, and you're
it's
unsigned.
Overcompensating at all times. It's not because the music is good, let's be real.
Yeah, if you feel the need to do that, it might be because you're not. No, but for real, because if you genuinely believe in your product and it's good and it's sick and you're a professional, on the other side, it's cool when people are like, oh my god, they're not even signed, and they're doing well. So it's almost bigger it's a bigger flex almost to not be signed. But it was funny back then. Like, even as a 15-year-old, I would be like, yeah, that's made up. Like, I was like, that's nothing. Like, that's not. It's like these guys with their friends probably in the room.
Imagine if those people had access to AI and could generate a music video from their phone in 15 seconds and
would have done it.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, why not, right?
Their entire profile, for what it's worth, would be even the art and everything, everything.
Well, that's another thing too. If you guys are paying attention to what's happening, there's Spotify is getting busted. Like, there's completely AI generated bands with AI generated artwork, and they're streaming real numbers. And even if they are bots or not, like, the perception is, oh, look at this band. Oh, they must be big. They're getting 600,000 monthly listeners or whatever. Like, if that was a thing on MySpace, if people just able to make a band and sell merch but just never play a show, who would know? Who would know that there is just one dude and not a band of all AI generated avatars or whatever? But
because it's not even an AI debate. It's simply the idea of this existing and being left up there to exist is like a proven concept for for people to rip off, right? Like it's just telling other people, hey, you could do this too, right?
Yep.
It's which is kind of insane.
Really glad it wasn't a thing back then. Like super glad that like no, but for like our memories is intact right now. It wasn't a part of the MySpace era, so none of that happened.
Imagine you find out like 25 years down the line that your favorite band growing up is an AI generated band.
Guns N' Roses have been fake this whole time. Yeah, Axl Rose is just a fucking Chat GPT output this whole time. Yeah, I don't know.
I could not accept.
No, and I mean kids of today, right? Like in 20
happen.
years, like for sure it'll happen, which is kind of fucked up, but.
Yeah, well, there's the internet theory type thing that at some point we won't really, because now you can tell, right? Like personally, I'm like, that's AI. Like it's pretty easy to tell, but I'm pretty sure we're gonna get to a point where it won't. So like there's a lot of people who think that a lot of people are just gonna tune out or something. I don't think that's gonna happen, but it's interesting to live those days. I mean, guys, we lived through the beginning of internet. We're gonna feel old just talking about it, but that's kind of true. Like, look where we are now. We witnessed. It would take like 5 minutes to load a Google image. We went through that. Like, oh, I'm going to the bathroom, and you're loading an image. Like, so you couldn't play a game if your parents were on the phone. Like,
exactly. I was just gonna say, and then your mom needs to use the phone to call her friend Becky or whatever.
That's even worse.
Yes. Yes. And they couldn't understand that you cannot pause too. That's the best thing. Like, press pause. I can't. It's live. What?
Yeah, I'm playing Halo 2 group battle on. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, man, yeah, we were living through some crazy times. Let's just
for sure.
That's my final take on the AI generation.
Very entertaining. Yeah.
Just to kind of talk deathcore, but graphic design again at the same time. Is this accurate? Your first album artwork was the Crucify Kill Rot album.
That was one of them for sure. I think that might have been like my second or third. We Last House was signed to Siege of Amida or Siege of Amida. I still don't know what the correct pronunciation was.
Sore for me.
Yeah. So it was one of their early signings that I did an album cover for, but then that led to Rose Funeral. That was probably one of my first 5 for sure. But yeah, before that, before album artwork, it was just basically just flyers, MySpace layouts, and banners and logos. If I didn't say that already, but the Crucify Kill Rot, that was like I didn't really know what I was doing, but it looked cool. I think, and the second one though, the Resting Sonata, that was the only cover that I've done where the whole band was in the room with me. They were coming through on tour. They stayed with me, and they were just like, oh, by the way, we need new album covers. So they were all, I don't know, it probably took us, I don't know, maybe an hour to put it together or something like that. They were telling me what to do. Like I was the mouse, like just put this here, but that was a cool experience. Yeah. That was awesome.
Well, I was going to ask, was that a cool experience? I would have been like, nah, get the fuck out of the room. Let me cook,
Oh, that was the thing. I had a really cool setup back then, when I was in Last House and bands would come through Albuquerque where we lived. And so like the entire upstairs of my house was my bedroom, a big, like, and then 2 connected rooms. There were like a jam room and like a chill space, couch, computer, smoke lounge kind of area, video games, etc. So yeah, bands would find it comfortable to come stay there, and even for a night or 2 or 10, because there's nothing around Albuquerque. If you're looking at a map, a lot of bands don't come here anymore because they'd rather just do the quick little 3-hour, 4-hour drives. But if you're coming to Albuquerque from Denver, 6 hours at least, 7 hours. If you're coming from Phoenix, 8 hours. If you're coming from Dallas, 12 hours probably. So having Albuquerque on a tour routing back then, if you had like the best agent, it was always like, oh fuck. But then they would get here and the shows would be, I hope, good in most cases. I hope those bands had a good time playing Albuquerque. I'm proud to be from here, and I'm proud of our scene. But logistically, to get here, I remember seeing Job for a Cowboy one time at the compound, and they were setting up, and they were clearly like, I'm sure you've seen bands setting up where they're clearly like all having a shit day and they don't want to fucking be there, and they're just setting up, they're just fucking knocking shit over, and we're like, damn, that's weird. And then the first thing Johnny says on the mic was like, we almost just fucking died slipping on black ice coming from Amarillo. Here we're Job for a Cowboy. Then just like into the first song, like they were shaken because they almost died driving to Albuquerque. Like, and I'm sure that just rattled the shit out of them. But um, yeah, so my place was like the hangout for bands that were in the know. We connected through either being on the same bill at a show here, or like me just being like, oh, this band's coming through town. Let me message him. Hey, I got a place to crash, whatever. Or meeting him at the show and smoking out and being like, by the way, I got a place. But I was like 30 minutes outside of the city in a little farm town with not a lot of lights. So there were sometimes I would drive home with the band and we'd be driving through like Sleepy Hollow. It's like dark and there's like all these like dead trees and, like weird kind of desert kind of country. And they're just like, where the fuck is this guy taking us? And then we'd get to my house and they'd see out, like, oh, this is cool. And,
Yeah.
it was like, not secluded, opposite of secluded. Like we could make a lot of noise. I didn't have close neighbors and stuff, so we could just until my parents woke up. My parents lived directly underneath. I said we're all on the top floor. Well, directly under the main staircase is my parents trying to go to sleep. My stepdad trying to wake up at like 4 a.m. So that was always the case. Like, all right, you guys can crash here, have a great time, but when you're going up the stairs, don't walk like some people go upstairs just like clunk, 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 clunk. They don't know how to fucking walk like a human being. So just show them how to do it. Like just slow, don't creak too much, and we're golden. That was my only like ask. Like don't run down the stairs, don't run up the stairs, and we're good. But sometimes they forget. Yeah.
Did you ever get like a super wild band that party kind of hardcore, or was it almost under?
There was rare occasions where two bands would crash out at the same time, and yeah, the time I think it was my 21st birthday actually. As Blood Runs Black and Knights of the Abyss were on tour, they played here with us, and we came back to my place. And I'm not really like a party animal. Even back then, I'd smoke a little weed and crash out, but they were just, they'd bring back beers and have a party. So I must have fell asleep early, probably, midnight or whatever. And I remember waking up at like, it was like 3:30 or 3:45 a.m. to loud bass coming from my surround sound in the other room where they were hanging out. And to put them all on blast, I guess I walk into this room and just picture walking into a room, and there's two couches, one on each side. There we go. And then a TV. So there's line of dudes, TV with surround sound, and they're watching some like porn DVD on like full blast volume on my surround sound, like with the subwoofer and everything, with my parents sleeping directly underneath us. And I just remember coming out of my room, just like, what are you guys doing? And they're like, just like laughing, because it was probably just some like fucking truck stop find or something. It was just like, dudes back then, like, oh, I'm good porno. Anyway, so it was just dudes being dudes, the bros being bros. But like, I get that, but also please don't wake up my parents with loud porno on my surround sound. And then right after,
wake up?
I probably didn't bring it up the next day just to like avoid an awkward conversation. I'm sure they probably did, but right, like literally dealing with that, tell them to turn it down, turn around. A band member's coming out of the bathroom to tell me that my toilet's clogged and overflowing, and it's about as bad as you would imagine. Like the whole floor of the bathroom is overflowed toilet of all these guys, 12, 15 guys hanging out, all using the same bathroom, but eventually it's going to back up, apparently. Learned that the hard way. But just waking up to all that and then just trying to go back to sleep, like, can you guys just please keep it down? But that was about as rowdy as it got. Other than that, it was chill times, just drinking beer, smoking weed, and let the guys unwind and play some video games and off to the next town.
must have been cool for them too, right? To have a place. We often talk about how it is on tour. You're not super comfortable, so now you're with one of your homies. You're like super, you have a place to crash. Like there's all. It's. I feel like not to defend them for being wild, but it's just like you're finally comfortable. You're with your boys and stuff, so you just like
Yeah, I
you
mean,
go wild.
a lot of times too, when you're on tour, like if you're just staying with like a random fan, like, uh, that can be a little. I mean, I experienced it. I did merch for Burning the Masses on their tour with Abigail Williams and Rose Funeral, and so that was my first experience, like going on a tour where we weren't just all sharing a hotel room. There's we were crashing with random fans and stuff like that. But there's some people who were totally cool and just like, just like you need a place to crash. Here you go. Here's everything you need. Okay, let yourself out on the way out. But then there's, some fans here and there where they're just like ultra, not obsessive, but like, uh, punishers, to
Yes,
kind of
sir.
sound like a dick, but um, but you don't know that when you're getting that in such that you don't know when you're getting into that situation. You're just thinking, damn, I just played a show. I'm tired. I need a place to fucking crash out.
A
This guy's
shower.
offer,
Hmm.
yeah, and a shower more than anything. And this guy's offering me a place to do that. Sure, I'll follow you. And then you get there, and yeah, you never know what you're in for. It's either a good time or uh someone, like, can you show me how to play this riff? It's like
Oh
over and over again.
come
Like it's
on.
like that was I was telling homeboy earlier, that was probably my funniest experience on that tour. Was just like there's one night I'm just trying to sleep, and all I hear coming from upstairs is Artie from Burning the Masses showing some kid how to play the sweep from the sweeping part from Nail Gun Massacre. Like this kid was like, "You got to show me how to play that," and like so he was doing it. You'd hear like, "I'm just trying to fall asleep in my little sleeping bag," and you just hear like you're already nailing it, and then him handing it off to the kid trying to play it and just not playing it, and then that just going on this. But then just like chuckling to myself, like this is a really funny moment. Like this kid will probably remember that for a long time. But yeah, but I tried to provide that what you were talking about, that like chill spot to unwind. Like I was never like fanboying out over them, just like just hanging out with the bros. But um, I was dubbed the New Mexican Connection by Lech from As Blood Runs Black. Those guys crashed out with me probably more than anybody else. ABRB and Burning the Masses too. So I know Artie pretty well, and it's you guys just chatted with him for a while, so I got
Yeah,
to go back and watch his episode, and I'm sure he's got some hilarious stories, because that band, man, yeah, that they brought out a certain kind of fan to their shows, and those people offering a place to crash out, they knew what was up. It's time to roll up some blunts and smoke these guys out, and they were all about it. But um, yeah, anyways, but yeah, like I said, it was 6 hours any direction from Albuquerque, so it's like a little oasis in the middle of nowhere out here. Yeah.
A lot of good
Artie,
memories for you for sure.
Artie was asking me to ask you about what you
Oh,
guys would get up to
oops.
specifically when Burning the Masses would roll up to your place.
I mean, playing a lot of the first UFC game on PlayStation, just like kicking each other's asses, like beating the shit out of each other on that. Hitting the Chong bong. I had a bong, a Tommy Chong bong, which was, if you were a pothead in the like early 2000s, like that was a coveted thing. It was like he had his own line of glass, and if his little picture, his little head was in the little bubble, it was like a legit Chong bong. But I didn't realize how big of a deal it was until those guys came around, and they were like, "Oh, you got a fucking Chong bong." It's like, yeah, let's go. But yeah, those guys, yeah, ABRB, Burning the Masses. I wrestled a bear once. Breathing Process, Rose Funeral. I'm looking at a list now. Cheating. My Better End. Great
Hell
dudes.
yeah.
Mike from My Better End. You got to talk to him at some point. Their drummer. He's playing with Through the Eyes of the Dead now. Greatest dude ever. And Chason from Burning the Masses too. Like I was being a drummer. Like I always found myself making the close connection with the drummer from the band. So like Lech and Chason. Um, and yeah. So but
But both
anyways,
both those
yeah,
guys are goaded. Let's just
yeah.
gotta slip that in real quick.
If you have it,
Chason is an
Chason.
insane fucking drummer, and I think has always been severely underrated. Just have to
I
put
would
it up on
just
the record.
I would just watch people trip on him every night on that tour I did merch for them, and you know, I don't think he knew how good he was at the time. I hope so now, but like, man, back then he was like 17, 18, 19, you know, when he was recording that stuff and touring, I think, um, maybe 21. But dude, he was playing like a world class fucking drummer, and they had such an edge, Burning the Masses specifically, in just the tightness and, you know, your band is only as good as your drummer, and to have Chason play for you, like that's about as good as you're ever going to get. So they had a great yeah, great drummer there. But Mike too, Mike from my Bitter End, Through the Eyes of the Dead, same. It's just absolutely insane drummer. But these guys are both like equally good people and human beings, and that's why I was so drawn to these guys. Lech also just great dude. But yeah, always drummer love, drummer bros. Yeah.
We're talking about the bands that you played with and stuff like that. I have a similar, because I pretty much asked you the same thing, but with graphic design. But I'm kind of curious to know maybe your big moment as a band, like that you couldn't believe that you're playing with the specific band. Like, oh my God, we're playing with these guys. Do you recall kind of?
Well, yeah, it's different depending on which member of the band you ask. Because here's the thing about Last House on the Left, it kind of ties into what you were talking about at the very beginning when I started listening in, like how you were either a metal band or a hardcore band at the time, or a death metal band, and there was no in between. I'm sure you guys have talked about this ad nauseum on this podcast already about where that all came into play. But yeah, in Albuquerque specifically, there's a lot of hardcore bands and a lot of death metal bands, and then eventually like scene metalcore. And Eat a Helicopter is probably the only other band. They're from Albuquerque too. It was like us and them as far as like straight middle of the lane deathcore, but we did not know it at the time because, like my earlier point, the reason we had that conundrum, I guess, is because of our influences. Like Tyler, our singer, and John, our lead guitar player, very much into like Vital Remains, Deicide, like straight death metal at the time. Whereas when I started playing with them, I was listening to like Misery Signals, As Lay Dying, In Flames, you know, not death metal. So our earlier stuff, like there's not a whole lot of blast beats. It's me trying to keep up with these guys and not being comfortable enough to even try
It's
blast.
a lot slower too altogether.
A lot slower, a lot like just kind of like groovier and kind of hard hitting. And like I said, earlier I couldn't play like super fast double bass. When I couldn't play Black Dahlia shit, I couldn't play Through the Eyes of the Dead kind of double bass. So I'm kind of big. I'm like 6 foot. It's probably like 180 at the time. I'm not a small drummer. So the smaller guys have no problem doing that shit. They got all the endurance. So for me, I was more limited in that I'm just kind of a more hard hitting, you know, I got that working for me and groove working for me, but nothing flashy, technical, 200, 300 BPM blast beat. Fuck, I could never do that shit. But anyways, yeah. So our hybrid of influences, yeah, depending on who he asked that question to, like if you ask Tyler, he would say Danzig for sure. We played with Danzig a few times. I would probably say probably wasn't it probably looking back on it now, like that memory of, oh, this is like, oh, we're doing good, this is like peak for me. Looking back on it now, was probably when we played with Suicide Silence, and Mitch was never talked to the guy. I never talked to the guy at all, but we played with him at the compound probably a few months prior to this and opened for them. Never engaged at all. I don't know if he ever saw us or listened to us at all, but we played with them later when they were on tour at the Mirror. And Mitch was standing side stage and he watched our entire set. Every time I'd look over there, he was just standing against the wall, just leaning there, just checking it out. And at the time that was cool. It was like, oh man, that guy checked out our set, like dude from Suicide Silence. But now it's like, wow, he took the time and watched our 25-minute set from start to finish, man, when he could have been in the bus fucking doing warm-ups or, you know, fucking meeting fans or whatever. But I have no idea if you knew who we were before then. But just to like, he had to have, he would have walked away if he wasn't enjoying it, I'm sure, you know. So that was like the okay. And then also when there was a time where we're opening for Carnifex. They were coming through town, and they actually they knew who we were, and they weren't like just like they were like, oh cool, we're excited to play with you, and it's like, oh shit, because didn't tour much. We were in this bubble again, surrounded by 350 miles of desert. So we had no like cognition or awareness of our hype, I guess, that we had, other than like numbers and how many plays we did in a day or whatever, how many friends we had or whatever. But that was the first time it's like, okay, people are paying attention to us and kind of see us on that same level, I guess. Mm-hmm. So that was cool. And then that was probably right before we got signed. That was again another one. It's like, would be even if it was just a MySpace label or whatever it was, they had legit distribution through Ferret. CJ Amita did. So our CDs were in the stores, and we could go to Hot Topic and buy our own CD, and that was, if that's not what let me know that we had kind of made it. I don't know what is, but yeah,
you can't even. Do you remember kind of going to the store to see if your CD's there, type of thing?
Well, my mom does. Yeah, my mom went, and she still talks about it. This, as like a mom walking in there. Hey, do you have the Last House on the Left Among Flies CD? And then like the cashier
in
being
their
like,
mind, they're like,
what does this lady want this for? Yeah,
lady.
Yeah, yeah. And then they're like, yeah, how do you know about these guys? Like, oh, my son's the drummer, and she, she's proud of that, and that's a great memory for her to have. And my dad did the same thing too. He had to go to Best Buy and order it from another store, and they mail it over. But yeah, I mean, that was awesome. But we never really saw any money from the whole getting signed thing at all.
It's more of a novelty thing more than anything. It's kind of like,
sure.
To be fair, even the big bands, some of them. But just to be fair, just to be clear, there wasn't, I don't think, a lot of money to share in Deathcore.
Yeah, we never. So. Yeah, as a band, we never had a lot of money. We were printing like 25 or 30 t-shirts at a time, because that's all we could afford. And
do you remember if you were selling you know what I mean, like selling well every time? Like, was it working well? To
not necessarily, no. I think more of online orders. Like that was a cool part too, because I was mailing out our merch, so I get the Big Cartel notification of where to send a t-shirt or a CD to. And yeah, when you start to see like international countries like Belgium and like on the other side of the world, like that's when it got pretty real too. Is like, it's a good portion. I if we ever went to Europe, I would probably say like our style towards the end during Among Flies was kind of more, it might have fit better in Europe, like the fans that can appreciate like the melodic
stuff and the
it kind of started going into that direction. Back to my earlier point too, because we all came in to the band with different influences, but eventually after hanging out with each other and being in the same room, we start to find commonalities of like, okay, like I think Abigail Williams was the first band that we all found and like all clicked on as a source of inspiration, in that like, oh, they're doing death metal that's heavy, but it's also melodic and like epic and dynamic. It takes you somewhere and you feel something. And it's, we were never trying to be like a chug, just straight breakdown band, but we like the melody. We liked having song structure and not necessarily like choruses and stuff, but like, we gravitated bands that like actually had melody and the songs actually went somewhere. And, bands like All Shall Perish and Antagony and As Blood Runs Black, and Vehemence was another huge. I don't know if you guys have
Vehemence,
Vehemence, just like I said, the whole point of this question, is like, who did you play with, and you realized that you made it, and I asked, I said it depends on who you ask. So for me, it was definitely watching or having Mitch watch our set. That was a moment where, looking back on it, that should have been where I realized that something was, moving in a positive direction. But to my point too, that we were living in a bubble surrounded by sand for 300, 400 miles. And not being aware of how we were perceived other than through MySpace. And we didn't tour much, so we didn't get to talk to fans in person all that much. And
or like see the turnouts, or
exactly, like we didn't
yeah.
have any kind of gauge other than like who's buying our shirts online or who's we never really saw like how many CDs we sold or how much money we made for the said label. But more recently we did do The Road Leads to Nowhere on vinyl through Secret Swarm, and we sold through 300 of those. So that means that there's at least 300 people that are still paying attention. And hey, that's cool with me. People are stoked that was finally put on wax, and me too, and it sounds better than it did back then now. So I would love to do Among Flies as well, but that's gonna have to be a 2-disc, I think. So more money, but yeah.
Can we kind of talk about the re-release real quick, and
Yeah.
this will make us kind of jump around a little bit, but I am kind of curious. You guys had been working on this thing for like a long time, from what I understand, having it remixed and remastered between the time you guys kind of started working on that to it actually.
So
coming
it's
on
actually
vinyl?
it's been remixed and remastered twice. The first time was just for the 10-year anniversary to put on digital and get on Spotify and whatnot. Then when Secret Swarm came around, it was like, okay, we need this done for vinyl, and it's going to be remastered by Jamie King, who's done Through the Eyes of the Dead, Between the Buried and Me, big name. So he kind of put his touch on it, and it was almost, when I listened to it for the first time, it was almost like there was a knob for aggression and pissed offness, and dude just went in there and was like, burp. And now it sounds like we were like playing way more aggressively and way harder. I don't know how the fuck he did it, but that was my first take is like, oh damn, this actually sounds like way more pissed off now, which I love that. And then we would probably have to do the same with Among Flies. But the issue we've been trying
Among Flies sounds fucking awesome though. Production on that is dope.
It depends on who you ask there too. I've heard some people shit on it. I think they preferred the rawness of the EP, maybe. I don't know, but
okay, but I think it's just like a comparison thing, right? Like I think, right, sure, like it is more polished, right? Like it's way more polished than what the and everyone's gonna have their different like tastes in that regard. But for a polished mix, if you like those kind of mixes, as a great sounding mix, like I just feel like it holds up today, right? Like it still sounds great today. Whereas some raw mixes sometimes you can feel the time, for better or for worse, right? Maybe for some people that's the quirky of it, but
I appreciate that. I mean, not to sound like conceited or anything, but I do think we were a bit ahead of our time. In that, like, if we would have been a band maybe a few years later, like maybe things would have been better for us. That's how I kind of mean it. But that means a lot. We didn't, we never set out to sound like everybody else. Like a lot of the bands that were doing deathcore back then were probably going to the same 2 or 3 producers. But again, to my point, surrounded by 400. The number is going to keep getting bigger every time I say it. Surrounded by 8,000 miles of dirt and desert. There weren't a lot of options. So we found a guy that was like, is way more like, like Seven Dust kind of rock oriented at the time. So the whole MySpace, deathcore, metalcore, this guy had he had no idea what this shit was. We were like a local band that wanted to sound heavy and good. And so I think that gave us an edge too, in that our production wasn't, even the first album wasn't like a lot of other bands. And but Among Flies specifically, a lot more polished. I mean, we had keyboards and kick trigger, like reverse kick trigger. I played without a trigger, but we reversed it in the studio or whatever. Spent a lot more time on the vocals. Tyler was out in Chicago for like 2 weeks doing vocals with the guy who ended up mixing the album. Not the engineer, Neil Kernan, I think is his name. But he was doing like Nile, Skinless, like legit death metal of Cannibal Corpse, I think, 6 Feet Under, one of those bands.
Okay, well.
But he was doing like legit death metal. So again, we just wanted to, not sound like everybody else. But that means a lot. We still, there's things that I would, if we were going to remix it for vinyl, I'm sure it'd be having a fresh ear after 10 years, you're going to find things that you could do better. So
Yeah,
looking forward
for
to
sure.
that. I would love to have that on wax and available for sure.
Because you guys got the
Smart
rights
move,
back.
too.
That's like the main element here, right?
Easiest deal ever. I messaged Jamie, was like, hey, if we want to put this out like on Bandcamp and stuff, can we? He's like, yeah, no problem.
There we go.
Does it? Yeah, does it? Yeah.
Jamie Graham the GOAT. That's why we love him.
Yeah. Yeah. Love Jamie. Love Jamie.
But that's awesome though. That's like yeah, can we kind of talk about too, I guess specifically like there are songs on the first album that are on the second album, but they're completely different, right? They're like 40 BPM faster with more guitar layers and dropped in a different tuning and all this stuff.
We did all that. Yeah, we did all that for, I mean, there's a handful of songs that were on the Release to Nowhere that made it to Among Flies, but they're completely different. They're way faster, way more layers. Reagan Pagan in the chat here did the Road Leads to Nowhere artwork. What's up?
Oh, hell yeah.
Homie Titty. That's my name for him. Titty.
So what was kind of like the thing, like, can you kind of take us back to getting into doing Among Flies and you know, rehashing these songs, and then maybe the why, or like the transition into changing these songs?
Did you realize
I think
also,
sorry.
just to add to that, like, did you, and also were you realizing of how big of a change it was, or was it just more like, oh, let's do this, and it just kind of happened naturally?
I think just playing the songs live so much between the albums. I mean, and then depending on my mood for the night, like sometimes I would just like screech some breakdowns to like a complete like tempo drop, and sometimes I would just kind of like barely drop into them. But and then, you know, practicing live, sometimes I would fuck with the guys and just, you know, just they would keep up with me, really. So I was never playing to a click ever, except for in the studio. So you know, we got to vary things a lot and experiment with tempo mapping, and you know, a song doesn't have to be the same tempo all the way through. Like no deathcore band like is gonna do that, you know what I mean? But again, at the time we didn't know we were a deathcore band, but still, like it was just from playing those songs live so much and figuring out what felt better, and then but also getting into the studio and then making those tempo maps. If you've ever been to a studio making tempo maps, they sound good in the studio, and then you take the CD to your car to or home to try to practice along, and you realize it's too slow or too fast. But you're also paying $30, $35 an hour for studio time, so it's just like, okay, it's good as is. So we kind of, some of those songs could have been probably a bit slower in retrospect, or faster in some parts, but we never played the song. We never played any song the exact same twice, like ever. At least I didn't. Yeah.
I mean, but it's still like a pretty stark difference, right? Like I'd understand like, oh yeah, it's like 10 BPM faster. I played it a bit faster tonight, but like you know, the gap between the two records is like I don't want to say like another band, but it really changes the feel of the songs, right? And I think specifically too, like the added guitar stuff, like there's a lot of that kind of I don't even know how to call it. It's not really like lead guitar, but like
it's a lot of wah pedal. John was
like the whole, it's like all over the album, and that wasn't on any of the old songs really. So
yeah,
it was like
that was
really
very
does
much
change like a lot of the mood of the whole album, right?
Yeah, I think that comes from John, our guitar player, coming in. His favorite band growing up was Metallica. So like, you know, Kurt and James kind of just ripping that wah pedal in their solo, like, you know, just like wow, wow, wow. There's a lot of that, and not a lot of. I don't think any. Nowadays you use a wah pedal to get those crazy like pinch harmonics, and you're like, but that wasn't really a thing. Well, you guys had the plasma rifle and Beneath the Massacre and Despise Icon and Ion Dissonance doing shit like that. That's kind of where that kind of came from. You guys are from that that zone of like the kind of quirky. Man, first time I saw Ion Dissonance, I don't know if you guys saw them growing up, is experiencing their 808 bass drop live the first time. I just remember just being like fucking like just like a hit of heroin or something, just like. But man, Beneath the Massacre too, just to put your zone, that was one of the hotbeds. I mean, honestly, it was like Oakland, for a lot of deathcore, and LA, but then Montreal and that whole area, man, you guys spawned a lot of bands that did really fucking good. Despise still going at it, putting out a new album. I forgot where I was going with that, but
their freaking drummer that's probably not human, but
yeah, Alex, exactly. So I kind of got lost where we're going with that.
Well, talking about the transition and how kind of
just the differences between the two albums. Like you listen to Forever Dying, and like that song is barely recognizable, if you listen to them side by side.
It's a lot faster. Yeah, for sure. And then we kind of
got
matched
the whole intro and like just the
completely different intro. Yeah, we were gonna redo Never Seen Again for A Month Flies also, but it just didn't feel right. It might have been the tempo map was like way too fast or something, and it was already one of our faster songs anyway. But in between those albums, we had actually written an entire album that we never did anything with, because we had a rhythm guitar player at the time who was like contributing a lot to the writing, and Chris Smith. And then once he left, like it didn't feel right playing the songs that he helped like put together so much. So there might have been like some riffs here and there that made it, but like we scrapped a lot of material in between those two albums. And so that kind of probably helped us like really hone in on what we wanted to sound like, because again, it took us a while to all kind of get on the same page as far as like, what are we going for here, other than playing along to John's guitar riffs that he's writing and Tyler writing lyrics.
A riff, like, and let's hope it goes somewhere.
Yeah. But then that was, kind of also a good thing too, because, being able to play with a death metal band or a deathcore band or a metalcore band or a scene band, like we just got more, at least locally, more eyes and ears on us that way. If we would have just picked we're a death metal band and just stayed in that lane forever, we would have not got to play with the bands that we got to play with, or I wouldn't be here even fucking talking to you, because I wouldn't have met so many people along the way that, propelled me through this whole time and keeping me busy and hiring me and whatnot. So, it just in that, just looking back on like, I'm making a living today because of like the people that I met along the way that have, that I've built relationships with, and who, trust me and I trust them, and they find it easy to work with me and whatnot. But that's the whole reason I'm talking to you guys or even surviving today, is because of these people that I've met on this journey. And it's like they say, it's not the destination, it's the people you meet along the way. Like it really fucking is like, that's what's going to keep you going throughout your entire life, like until the end, is those people that you met along the way and, made feel a certain way. It doesn't matter what you like do. It matters how you make people feel. That's what they're going to remember. So, all this shit behind me, all my, records and stuff like that, whatever, like is the people that really know me. And that's all I care about. So I'm happy with that.
Those are the real deathcore dollars right there.
Yeah,
there's deathcore dollars. Where are those at? I'm charging $25 for a logo. Yeah.
But it was a good time. We often have this discussion. I miss a lot of, well, I live in the past, so clearly I miss a lot of things, but I miss specifically when there wasn't so much of, oh, this is a deathcore band, so we're gonna do like a deathcore show. Back in the days, it was just like, oh, I listen to Veil of Maya, and I love Immure, and I also love Suicide Silence, and hey, did you hear For Today? And it's completely different, but it's good. Like, it was just like, it's hard to explain, but it was the scene. It was just like, oh, there's this band, like everybody's doing breakdowns and mosh pit. It's just cool, and you listen to all those bands. So it created this, like, we're losing our minds here when we look at old flyers and the lineups. I was like, what? That happened? Like 12 amazing bands that today would be sold out in like a second.
God forbid you're opening 1 p.m. on a Wednesday Day
Right.
on a fucking
Yeah.
festival date. But yeah,
Man, a lot of that was my boss for 15 years, Ash from Sumerian, man. He was, before Sumerian was really taking off, he was the booking
sure.
agent who thought of, yeah, I can put fucking necrophagists with stick to your guns and fucking, you know what I mean? Like just go, just run the whole gamut. Run the whole gamut. Why not? Like, why not bring out a huge chunk from each demographic to a show and then just let the pit figure itself out? You know what I mean? Like that was
let them sort it out
let
amongst
the
themselves.
pit, yeah, just let them figure it out in the pit, but the fans, but yeah, like shout out to him for, I remember seeing Reflex, Ash's band with Tosin from Animals as Leaders in Santa Fe in probably 2005. And it was like them, From a Second Story Window, like Ion Dissonance, Pariah, like all these bands that and then Reflex. So like he booked that tour. He knew what he was doing. Like, but those flyers that you're talking about, like that was him or his employee, like putting those lineups together. And, yeah, like I can see those flyers that you're talking about now. Like here's like California Metal Fest from like 2012. That was like, I remember because I did the flyer, but fucking like over 50 bands.
Yeah. Exactly,
and but you look at them and you're looking through them and you're like, damn, why is this band's logo so small? Like, because back then that's where they were at, or or reverse order, like, damn, this band that is not doing so well these days, man, they were really on top. They were up there real high on the AdNet back then, you know what I mean? So it goes both ways with time. But
it would be wild. You would see like Asking Alexandria touring with Whitechapel. Like what? Like like what is like what is freaking happening? Then, probably a couple of fights during those shows. But
I was just gonna say, and just imagine the pit, the ecosystem of just like the ecosystem figuring itself out in there. But
yeah,
that was a big thing in Albuquerque, man. Because like I said, it was a lot of death metal bands and straight hardcore, and so we would see it firsthand, like people trying to mosh for us, and then some dude breaking the ball up and start swinging and twisting and kicking, and then the death metal guys that didn't know what that was being like, why are you kicking me, why are you punching me, and then just
they want to fight. Genuinely, they're just like,
oh man, there's at least one fight probably at I mean, yeah, there was less shows that we played without fights than with, yeah. So, but yeah, that's just the whole thing. It figures itself out over time. People, I would invite friends to my shows that had no idea about metal in general at all. So they would just be in the back of the venue watching all this unfold. Like, why are people kicking and punching, and why are they hurting each other in there? And it's like, but that was just funny times.
Those were just the times. Yeah.
So those were the days. And while on the topic, we were talking about Sumerian, right? And before, I wanted to ask you something, and I completely, because I'm super HDHG, so I probably forget it within a second. But you mentioned working specifically for them, right? If we're talking in terms of designs and stuff like that. At some point, you were doing so much for them. I would be curious to ask, if it was an adaptation thing for you to go from, because most of the artwork we saw was mostly like deathcore, more gore and stuff like that. But if we're talking about Sumerian, I mean, even Born of Osiris or Veil of Maya was a different kind of artwork, and not to mention Icy Stars. I mean, we're completely it's the polar opposite, So was that kind of a big adaptation for you to make? Or?
Yeah, eventually over time. I mean, I kind of there was a certain point where the roster started to get even more diverse, with like, we hired a radio person to do radio full time. It was like, okay, well, how do we take an advantage? I say we, like I'm still working for Sumerian, but I'm saying that because I was there for 15, 16 years. So excuse me if I slip and say we, but yeah, they the first thing I ever did for them was the Born of Osiris logo for Sumerian. Yeah. The little frilly kind of curvy, one. Yeah.
That's iconic. Okay.
Yeah. So that was my first gig for them. And then from there, they started using me for flyers, MySpace layouts and whatnot. And then eventually to the point where it's just more shit that I could, I couldn't put like updated MySpace I'd remove the old flyers from a band page. Like, how do you charge for that? Like, I logged into Veil of Maya's page and I deleted old shit. And it says like, okay, well, we should probably just like put this guy on the payroll. Yeah. And so that was, yeah. So all in all, like the first few years were just invoicing now and then. And then eventually move to California, start working from the office. So it's like a 15-year period. So I've been doing my own thing now for a year and a half, just back to full-time freelance.
Congrats, by the way.
Yeah,
That's
but yeah, it
great.
was hard to, I mean, yeah, it was like on the job self-training, in that no one was really telling me what to do or showing me what to do, or, I would get input from people at the label or the band themselves on what they wanted to see, or they would just trust me to put something together. And that's how it was most of the time. But yeah, eventually got to the point where, like I said, bring in a radio guy. How do you take advantage of the radio guy? Well, you sign bands that would do well on the radio, and not a lot of the bands on the roster fit that description. So once they started signing bands with that in mind, yeah, it became more of a challenge of like, how do I, they don't want something brutal. They don't want something like flashy neon. They don't want something, they want something polished or clean or just completely different. Well, it eventually got to the point where like, again, like knowing my limits of like what I can and can't do. Like, I'm not an illustrator. I can't do that. So I'm going to have to hire somebody to do that part. So then that's where like me being the graphic designer for the company turned into me being the art director. Someone had to point it out that like, like you can just hire people to do that stuff that you don't have to do everything. Like you can, there's room in the budget to hire out here. So like I've done so much stuff that like will never be in my portfolio or on my website, because like it was someone else that did the cover, but I put everything fucking else together, like, the layout and the variants, and I hired the people to do
the idea,
pre-order,
even
the pre-order designs, and just to, and, build off of, okay, if like a band sends me one album cover and that's it, you got to build more than just that. Like, how do you build an entire world for people to live in off of that? So that's kind of where my head was always at with layouts and stuff. And then vinyl became more of a thing, closer to the end. No one was really thinking about vinyl during the Myspace days, that's for sure. Like no one was selling.
You got all this old stuff that needs kind of either reimagining or
or like
panels out of thin air.
Yeah, 100%. So a lot of the stuff I would do was just like the other pieces of the puzzle. And so yeah, like I said, there's a lot of stuff that I've done, but I didn't do. Like I didn't come up with the album cover, or it wasn't my idea, but I put everything else together. So a lot of the stuff that I do now too is like, asset or photo based. Like I'm not doing a whole lot of like just strictly creative from scratch stuff at this point. I'm just, doing tour posters with, art that already exists or photos that already exist, or I'm doing merch for a band and they're sending me all the artwork to use and, approved assets and whatnot, which is cool. It's kind of giving my brain a break. But yeah, it became very overwhelming for a while of like, how do I just like like my brain's a sponge. I'm just like wringing it out, trying to get more creativity to flow out. And I would bring my computer home on weekends for a long period of time, which is in retrospect like not healthy and not a good thing. It was like grind, just keep working, keep cranking shit out. And then meanwhile, like real life is just passing you by because you're just soaked into this fucking Photoshop in your computer trying to crank things out before a deadline. And so yeah, the last like year and a half of not being in full fucking go mode every single day and waking up to group texts, of like, where's this? Why don't we have this? And like what? This doesn't even reply to me, but now I'm stressed out, like stuff like that. Like I don't miss it all, but yeah, you gotta recharge your brain at some point. Like you just can't be creative nonstop for fucking ever, or even like a month or even a week. Like you got to take a break. Like, yeah, I definitely got to that point. But yeah, once I was able to like, if I had a vision that I couldn't execute, I could just find the right person and build a relationship with them and build around that.
I love how you take like a question that it's kind of I kind of ask like a bit, and you make it super well rounded, like with a great message with it and with perspective. I love that. But no, I mean it, like seriously, it was such like a beautiful, and it's a few times in the the during the podcast, but it's cool to hear that whole first of all, it's healthy what you said, but it's also like it's a great perspective because I didn't even think about that. You said like, oh, I could hire people sometimes and stuff, and it feels like you knew maybe your limit. You didn't want to force. A lot of people would have just kind of forced it or tried it and just go with it, you know. And
a lot of it was dictated by timelines too. Like a lot of it is very much like, okay, we just got a master in from this band randomly, their album's done, now we got to put it together, they want to release it before this tour that they've already announced, and then it's like, go
and it needs to get to production before a few weeks before that, and
so working backwards off of things like that. And very rare instances where like I just had all the time in the world to do stuff, like there's some albums that I've done that like the first Heart Machine album, I don't know if you guys remember the Heart Machine, but that was like it was like in the works for a while. So I got to play around with that for like over like a year, probably just go back and forth and try different things before it even came out there as she is. And then, some things are really quick. Some things you have a lot of time to work on. Sometimes the bands are very indecisive, or the band members are not communicating well, or, you're working on something towards, and you think you're done, and you've been talking to one person in the band the whole time, and then you get to the end and they're like, okay, great, this is awesome, love it, let me show the rest of the guys now and see what they think. And you're like, no. I fucking thought you were doing that the whole time. And then dealing with that from there, there's so much like PTSD experiences that that now you just kind of have to like see them coming ahead of time and know how to like,
then you charge
avoid the iceberg.
I do not do client work anymore, ever, for specifically those reasons. From doing videography and photography and stuff, and as much commercially as more DIY on my own. Like, that sort of thing that you just mentioned, all year round, all the time, no matter how much you try to anticipate it and to put guardrails and to have protocols in place so that these sorts of things don't happen, they somehow still do.
I've
worked in marketing.
It sucked the life out of creating that
just
sort of thing.
Let me talk to the person in charge of the operation. Let me, if you guys don't have that, figure it out. Like, who's calling the shots here? And like, and then to take us back to Myspace too, like a lot of those bands that you guys probably talk about on this podcast didn't have a manager. They were just fucking figuring it out on their own, and to their detriment. Like, I'll say it right now, like if you're a band trying to make it and you don't have a manager, like you're not going anywhere. I'm sorry. Like there's no way that, or you've somehow convinced all your other band members that you're okay to make all of the decisions for the band.
Yeah,
and they're
I think that does happen a lot. Yeah, it's like
there's like one person. I'm thinking about like Shadow right now, like Shadow and whatever. Like you have like a person in your band that's like, I wouldn't say like calling the shot, but like clearly if
they weren't doing music in the band, they'd be a manager for other bands type of person.
There you go. Yeah.
That was the cool thing about Sumerian when it started. Like everyone that was working at the label for the most part like was in a band at some point or had toured at some point. That's like cool. So it was very much like their tagline coming out of the gate was like by artists for artists, and it was that. And we knew that, like, I keep saying we, like, if a band was requesting tour support money, it's like, and then the number was just outrageous, like, oh, we need $60,000 to go on tour. It's like, for this tour, no, you don't. Like, we've all lived in a van and slept in a van and, all done the whole hotel thing, like in one room, like, guys, figure it out. So it would, like, as opposed to like some corporate label where none of the people working there have any experience in music, have never been on the road, never played a show in their life.
You need $200,000.
Oh, that sounds reasonable.
For 4 shows. Yes, makes sense. No, but to be fair, the reason, especially because I asked about Sumerian, because to me, the funny thing is, out of all the brutal label you could have landed or whatever with like Rose Funeral, Suicide Silent, like all the things you did that were so brutal and gory, you ended up at, out of all places, Sumerian. So to me, and I love Sumerian, by the way, I was one of those kids who loved like I See Stars and all those other things, but it's just blowing my mind that like as a brutal, more metal oriented graphic designer, you ended up in Sumerian, which
Sure,
became kind of flashy, and
I got
poppy.
to
So.
like, I mean, I did a few things for Slaughter to Prevail, and I don't know if you know Soreption. They're not really deathcore, but
Yeah, hell
they're
yeah.
very groovy. I signed Soreption to Sumerian for an album and got to
Mm,
kind of flex my death metal. I didn't really do much artwork for them, but still, that was like my that was very much at that time where we were starting to sign like more bands that would work on the radio and whatnot. But that was like my cred signing. It was like if we have Soreption on Sumerian, like that's showing the diehard fans that like yes, we still care about like progressive, you know, like that band is
yeah.
like
Oh, they signed on, right? I didn't even realize that was a Sumerian release. Monument of the
one
End
album.
is like
Yeah, one album.
such a dope record, dude.
Yes,
The
thank you. Yeah.
Anti-President and King of Undisputed Nonsense. Those songs are
That
such
song in
fucking
particular,
bangers.
yeah, dude. I remember hearing that song for King of Undisputed Nonsense in my office for the first time at like 9:55 before everyone even rolled in, and just playing that. I just like laughing to myself, like this like, sometimes you just that's all you can do is just like crack up laughing. It's just like oh my god, it's like, but they had very bad visa problems. They were
Mm.
scheduled to go on Summer Slaughter that year to like actually promote the album, and the guitarist like couldn't make it. They had him on some high watch list, and then the rest of the guys came in. They found a fill-in guitar player, but he could only play a week, so they were trying to buy time. They were still hoping that the main guitar player would make it somehow. He never did, so they flew out to America from Sweden to play like 7 shows and then fly back. Poor guys, but that was
Jesus Christ.
yeah,
That's
that
the
ruined
worst.
the whole
Uh,
momentum for that album, unfortunately. But they've had some more lineup changes since then, and they're still crushing. They're still my favorite death metal band. I'll always love Soreption, but yeah, talk about bands that are ahead of their time. If you go way back to MySpace days when they had songs like 2 and 3 and 4, that was their song names, but they were
Yeah.
like uh man, the grooviest shit of all time. As Blood Runs Black showed them to me, and they had been shown Soreption by Decapitated.
Okay, well
So
that checks out. See, that's like
that's cred,
the main
yeah,
band I could compare it to, right? That kind of
yeah.
grooviness and the style of riffs.
So Decapitated was showing people, hey, if you like, you got to check out Soreption, and they were
Yeah.
so. And I mean, so that's cred right there too. But yeah, as far as like the brutal stuff, yeah, there wasn't a whole after a certain point, not a whole lot of brutal stuff. They're starting to sign some heavy bands now. They've got Sean Keith back, who was he's starting to sign. He was at Sumerian at the beginning. Now he's back. He's starting to sign some heavier stuff, I think. So I'm still kind of watching from the sidelines,
yeah.
and there I didn't like wasn't thinking everything was going to go to shit or burn down once I left, but I'm glad they're doing just fine without me. So I'm happy about that.
They're
Yeah.
keeping the heavier, but it's cool. But to be fair, it worked out for them, right? Like I mean, I see for a while, I see Star did very well. Like it kind of became like one of, especially back in the days with like Attack, all those big.
Well, I mean, they had
like,
Asking Alexandria, all that stuff too, right?
oh,
Like
it's
it was,
true. Asking was on there too. Yeah, so
Asking started hitting radio
Asking was
really
the
big.
biggest.
Yeah.
Did you? Well, you got to witness that, like the
Yeah, work on
ascension
some
of
stuff.
Yeah.
Asking. This one is always going to be a mystery to me, though. That release in terms
That
of
was
like
like a
music.
random cover song EP.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah, they did some like 80s. That was when
it
they
was
were
like
still in their like Sunset Strip LA kind of grunge rock phase. But yeah, I mean
oh,
they
cool.
walked so all the other bands could run in that like yeah, Asking was a big source of the you know the money pile to pull from for all these other bands to get off the ground. So yeah, shout out to
It's blowing
Danny
my
fucking
mind.
Warsnot, man, and fucking Ben Bruce and those guys. Ben Bruce, one of the best, their guitar player, original guitar player, one of the nicest fucking people of all time. But yeah, it was great to just watch those guys go through everything. But it was also scary a couple times, just like I don't
Oh,
know
for sure.
how much you followed their whole trajectory. But yeah, man, that was the whole reason we had a big office in LA. Sumerian was if we didn't have Asking, it wasn't until like Bad Omens now blowing up, like they're a big part of what's keeping, that label going. They're
One of the
doing
biggest bands
so
easily
big.
too. I mean,
They're
like,
so big. Yeah. And then the new song is such a banger too. It was just like, I was kind of
So-
avoiding listening to it, and it's like, oh, I'll finally check it out. And I was like, fuck, this is so good. Like,
well,
this is such a good
Noah
song.
with his voice too. I feel like he could, you know what I mean. Not to discuss the band, but you put that voice on pretty much anything, and it's gonna be just.
Oh, he's a big songwriter too. He's a big part.
Watching
of the whole rest
watching
of it
those
too, so.
guys go from a rehearsal space in North Hollywood, trying to figure out what their band name was going to be, writing those songs. I remember meeting those guys in a rehearsal space for the first time. They were still trying to figure out what the name was going to be, and someone at the label, I don't know if it was Ash or whatever, came up with Bad Omens. But and then seeing them where they're at now, in not a lot of time, 6 years, maybe 7 years,
Crazy.
Dude.
And
Yeah,
they've been on top too, right? Like it's not like they're just reaching it now. Like it's been a few years. So within those 6 years, right? It's just been like
and they can play with
0 to
anybody.
100.
They can be on any festival bill. They can be on any tour package, and they'll be just fine. Yeah.
I have this weird thing to me. Like I like his voice so much that like my favorite things to hear from them is the acoustic performances most of the time. Like just hearing like his voice, like
When you can hear him, everything breathe. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, his voice, like he's one of the few. Like I know we talked about that a lot, like voices and stuff. Like if he's not one of the best, I don't know. I mean, like his voice is just out of.
Yeah, it's got to be. I mean, it's them and Sleep Token like fucking neck and neck at the finish line right now. And like, well, I don't know about the finish line, but yeah, they're
for sure.
And they're both obviously fans of each other. Like the more I know for a fact, Noah's a huge Sleep Token fan, and nobody knows who fucking Vessel is. Well, yeah, they do, but I'm sure I'm sure they are fully aware of Bad Omens, and they're both paying attention to each other, which is cool because you need that, kind of, or else both bands get stagnant. You need someone kind of right on your tail, and like Europe's probably one thing compared to America, but I'm really excited to see where those bands end up. Sleep Token, I tried to get people at Sumerian to pay attention to this band in 2017. I want to say, like they hadn't put out a full length yet. I think it was still the EPs, and someone told me, "What's up with the masks?" And that was it. And so Sumerian could have had Sleep Token if maybe I would have thought a little bit harder or something, but.
So they jumped on Slaughter to Prevail just to make sure the mask thing was covered, and they weren't taking up.
Yeah, that was another thing too, man. I mean, if you remember Alex's from Slaughter's like early YouTube videos where he was just doing Suicide Silence covers, I remember specifically not like being like, "Damn, we need to sign them," but just knowing that kid was gonna be a fucking star too. I forgot how fucking massive they are, dude. They're Jesus. It's just like
one of the biggest.
Slipknot 1999 kind of like. Whoa, something's bubbling up. Something's happening right now. Yeah, great guys too. Alex is a fucking teddy bear. Jack's great dude. Yeah, worked pretty close to that
band too.
God,
like it's kind of
crushing.
It's a setting like they're the closest, if I may, like they're kind of the closest to the festivals we had, like the big new metal festivals we had back then. Those kinds of performance with like Biscuit, Linkin Park, or whatever. Within deathcore, it would be them, I think, doing that sort of.
For sure. I mean, look, they're touring. I mean, they've toured with Marilyn Manson and shit like that.
Yeah,
I mean, they've been doing arena stuff. So
yeah, they're not even doing like maxed out production stuff either. Like Sleep Token and Bad Omens are just starting to do, like, once Slaughter like gets on their fucking crazy $100,000 stage production game, and just imagine like they could be like a Rammstein level arena band. Like they really could.
Towards that, I think, like they're heading in that in that direction, which is great for all heavy music. That's
everybody, it all trickles down, man. Yeah, the more, I mean, even that little period where like it was cool for like the Kardashian girls to wear like metal, death metal fucking band logos. Is like at first like cringy, but also like that actually kind of helps. Like
I see like Michael Cera with Slaughter to Prevail.
That's like a whole like fashion. If you go to LA right now, like you walk down the street, just people wearing death metal merch for bands that don't even exist. Maybe they're AI generated bands, but like that's like a fashion like trend now. Just wearing like old death metal shirts. I've got a large friend somewhere where I grew up who bought every show he would go to, he would buy everything that the fucking band had for sale, and probably an extra large or a double XL. And so I know somewhere in his closet somewhere he's got fucking shit that would sell for like $700 at some place on Melrose in California or something. I saw it with my own eyes, man. They were just, you know, but old band merch that people have, you know, just some of the relics from back then. That if someone's fucking gold foil despised icon hoodie is still intact and not completely falling apart, like I don't know what that would sell for, but
yeah, they just like reprinted some of those and stuff. I mean, that's what a lot of the bands are doing now. To
like don't take your shit to the Goodwill and just drop it off. Like if you're smart at all, like fucking put it on Depop and try to sell it.
People are in the know now, and everyone's selling their shit on Depop and stuff for 10x the price that they paid for it. But bands, people are flipping new merch directly on like of like new underground bands because they know there's not much of it and the band hasn't toured, so it's like kind of the only way for someone to get that merch like elsewhere in the world, so they can get away with CDs, selling it for $100, CDs, same kind of thing. So it's like that whole market is kind of like fucked up right now for anything old and new.
Yeah, things have changed too, right? Like earlier in the conversation, we were talking about CDs and like I'm big on, you know, I love the early 2000s. I still have like a DVD, old consoles. I love like physical, having like a copy of something is important to me. So now that it's such limited quantities that it's almost more intense in that sense. So like kids are now aware that if they have like a CD and they printed like 100, they fully know that in a couple of years or whatever, especially if the band takes off and they're doing well, it's like it's going to sell for thousands, you know.
Yeah, people are thinking ahead and they're smart. Yeah, they'll definitely not take advantage of that, but
which most of us didn't do.
No, we were not. No one was thinking about, I better save all this MySpace merch, band merch for when there's a
Pokemon
MySpace
cards.
resurgence in 20 years.
Wish, dude.
My
the
Pokemon
amount of merch
cards.
I fucking threw out, man.
So that's what I'm saying. My buddy with all those extra large and double XL shirts, he's probably got any band you can fucking think of. Man, I need to get him on the fucking internet or something, but I've got a good, you know, little haul too. Bands that would come through, hook me up with a shirt for like fucking clog my septic tank and whatnot. You know, free T-shirt, at least they could do. I've got some good stuff.
I have to ask you, like, not to go back again to Sumerian, because it's a big topic for me. Like, I do big videos on YouTube. You're talking about asking. I just did a big video on asking Alexandria and stuff like that. Okay. Like, I'm just curious to know if once you got officially hired at Sumerian, if you received like tons of message from previous friends or whatever, will you sign? Like, did you get a lot of those? Like, he's working at Sumerian now, so he's gonna hook us up.
Not really. No, I mean, probably because I'm coming from Albuquerque with not a lot of you know, local band. It was, if anything, it was more of like, hey, will you do, you know, design work for my friend's band or something, and then that just being a complete clusterfuck, or like, hey, can you do my band's album artwork, or I only have, you know, $100 or whatever. So it was more like no one really ever asked me for like guest list for shows or to sign their band or anything like that. That could be a weird spot to be in, but no one really.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, that is a very good thing. I don't associate myself with Punisher people, so
great move. Great move. No, because
New
we
Mexico
all know
is Punisher free, apparently.
Pretty much. People here are pretty real. The people that I know, that the Rio Grande goes right through New Mexico, and the people I know, everyone that grew up really close to the river, great, doing awesome, going great. And then the further you get away from that river, a little bit more like, they got some DWIs, they got some, you know, and just like full. And then you get out, it's like, they're full on addicted to something now, or like, you know, and then even worse. But everyone that grew up close to the river and was doing pretty good. That's how I.
Something in the water, man.
Something that
maybe.
Thank you. Something in the water for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Could be doable. I had to ask because like we all know there's people like that. It happens, like those kinds of things. Like, you know, like they talked to you once 10 years ago. Hey, here's, do you remember I saw you at the theater? Like, that would be great if you could sign mine or
No,
something like that.
but being an employee of the label meant I was like a Facebook admin for a lot of bands, and
sure.
occasionally I would get see
God.
like even just like the first few messages or first words of a message that came through. It got to the point where I had to just go in and start just signing myself out of that, because some of these bands get some crazy messages, or a lot of messages, or at that time when Facebook was really thriving, people just like, hey, fucking, I almost ended it all because of your music. And I'm just like casually, like as an admin, not even in the band, kind of seeing that and be like, I'm just gonna let them kind of hopefully discover that. I'm not even gonna, I'm not gonna open someone else's mail. But yeah, I mean, but then there'd be some weird ones too. I don't know if Ash from Sumerian made a movie called American Satan.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys remember that, but that account specifically, the American Satan Facebook account, was getting some weird messages from people wanting to join Satanism. Like that was like, how do I the message? How do I join Satanism? How do I sell my soul to Satan? Like legit, like asking that questions like that. It's like, what the fuck? Like really, from like third world countries and shit, like broken English. Like, how do I fucking sign up for the Illuminati or whatever? Like, it was really bizarre shit. That was the weirdest stuff I ever kind of came across.
Not exactly the crowd you maybe want.
But they just see an account. Yeah, they just see an account called American Satan. They don't even know it's a movie, and they're just like, "Oh, how I want to know. Oh,
I found them.
How do I find out more about this?" Really weird shit. But, anyways,
how do I sign up? Like, how does it?
Yeah, like you just go. Yeah, here's this website for Satanism.com.
Yeah, exactly.
Just sign up. Yeah, and then you'll get an email,
instruction,
verification code. Yeah, no, yeah, that was weird.
Oh.
All right, so I want to wrap this up here, just because of time, because honestly there's so much more we could fucking tap into, but I'll say it now. I want to have you back on at some point, because there's so much more shit we could get into, but I think we could kind of end this. I'd have to kind of, I don't know, make this as brief or as long as you want. Two things. Maybe I'd love to know what like a favorite piece that you worked on would be, in terms of like any sort of art. It could be, I know you do a bunch of photography too, just kind of anything that you touched on. Maybe like a more meaningful one. Maybe it's a connection with the band or something like that. 100%. And then I'd love to touch on just maybe like an artist or two that you look up to, that you really enjoy. Not necessarily like that's like an inspo directly to the work you do, but just art in general, because I know you're into all that stuff. So
100%. Give me 1 second and I'll get a properly quick.
Yeah, you're good.
So I hope that you can clip this for me, because I want to send this to somebody at some point. I don't know if you guys had PBS up there, and you know who Mark Kistler is.
I do not.
He was.
I don't think I do.
He had a TV show growing up called The Secret City, and then eventually The Imagination Station. But he was basically the Bob Ross of drawing. He taught, things like contour and like shading and overlapping, and like in a very like easy to digest, like kid friendly way. And as far as people I look up to and that inspire me, like, would not be talking to you guys if it wasn't for this dude and his TV show. A lot of illustrators probably say the same thing, but if I ever met this guy, I will cry like a baby and I will just melt into his arms, and it just would not be here without Mark Kistler inspiring me to just pick up a pen. I don't draw much, but I did a lot as a kid, and just everything, just even in Photoshop, and knowing where and when to create depth with overlapping certain things inadvertently, or knowing where the light source is coming from and where the shading needs to be. Maybe I didn't know that much stuff in the early days, but now I think about these things. But yeah, Mark Kistler is probably the reason why a lot of artists who grew up with him are doing what they're doing. But he's the OG. As far as Photoshop goes, He was just in the chat. Reagan Pagan before his fall.
Oh,
MySpace legend, if you're familiar with the name. Before his fall, did a lot of logos, did a lot of t-shirt designs back in the day. But he's a guy I would look up to for tips and, hey, does this look cool? What could I do to make it look better? When I was starting out. So if he's still in here, I'm just trying to shout him out. But as far as memorable stuff, pieces that mean the most to me, Chon Grow and Stray from the Path Rising Sun, specifically because respectively I worked with my dad on the Chon Grow album artwork, and I worked with my mom on the Stray from the Path Rising Sun artwork. So my dad helped paint leaves and try to figure out how to, we were trying to get paint to drip off of a suspended leaf, a leaf suspended from fishing line, and paint dripping down with a white background all day. That's how I'm envisioning this going. Like, how do I make that happen? Well, a little bit of wind, the fucking leaf keeps turning around. That's not working. We're wasting paint. We're wasting leaves, blah, blah, blah. My dad's in the other room. We're using all his paint up. I'm with Chon, two of the guys from Chon, Eric and Mario. And then he comes in and he's like, well, what if you do it like this? And you just tape the leaf to this white board, and then you can control the angle. It doesn't move, get more shots out. The paint drips slower. And then that's how we end up with the Chon Grow album artwork. So he played a big part in that. And the Straight from the Path Rising Sun, my mom was out in my driveway smashing cassette tapes with me and running them over with a bicycle and hitting them with a shovel. And I was just snapping pictures until something looked cool. So yeah, I got to work with one of my parents for each of those. That's obviously going to mean the most to me. But yeah, like getting creative with your parents and having something they can, you know, see online or on a store shelf or a t-shirt, or, you know, that's awesome. That's the most important to me.
Not to go back to that conversation, but that's one thing AI is never going to be able to do with artworks and stuff like that. I'm just going to say that, you know, because it's, you know, sometimes people cannot even feel it, but an artwork like that with so much thought and passion in it and stuff, like, it's part of the artistic project. You need that if you're an artist, and you're never going to do that with, like, I don't know, like some AI thing or whatever. You can feel that. Like, I'm super spiritual as a person. I keep saying it, but like, to me, there's like energy in everything that we do, and you can 100%. Feel these things. So the two examples you just gave, like, that's something you can feel. So
yeah, thank you. Yeah, it you know, if it's real, to quote my old boss, if it's real, the world will feel. I don't know how many times he told people, bands sending their vocals like, hey, I think we're done with the album, and it's like, these vocals sound like you're reading it off of paper or off your cell phone. Like, where's the feel in it, you know? And like, people can see through that kind of shit. If you guys are fans of pro wrestling at all, I don't know if you are, but
not personally, but I could.
Sometimes a new character comes along and they're flashy in the ring, and then they get on the mic and they start talking, and it's, oh, you just memorize his entire script, and you just, you know, like, and then from then on, like, their credibility is shot because I didn't believe it from the get-go. You know what I mean? But man, if that same wrestler can spend a weekend with it and really like how do I fucking, like, or a singer in the studio, like, how do I get this to come across like I'm not just reading it or reciting it? You know, like, you see through that, and like, you can hear it in performances, and you can see it in artwork, and you can, you know, people's bullshit X-ray vision these days is very on point because we've just seen so much of it. I think a lot of people now, like you're talking about earlier, you see AI, you can pinpoint it a mile away. I hope to God everyone else catches up with us on that level, and you know what I mean? But
yeah. It's pretty sad at this point, you know. You see these fake profile, and people are like, hey, can I bring you on the date? And you're like, oh God,
that's a whole other fucking part of Jesus Christ.
That's
all my followers these days are just like, oh, it's some girl, and I click on her page, it's like, oh, I have 2 followers and an OnlyFans fucking virus link in my bio. I'm like, is it Instagram just so shot now to where people are like, the only engagement a lot of creators are getting are just follows from blank
bots
fake.
and
It's
shit,
the
yeah.
new
Bots.
LimeWire viruses during those days.
YouTube,
That's how
even
they operate
YouTube
now.
comments, it's like
Yeah.
the most random fucking thing.
Wow,
the
this
first
is
comments on every
amazing.
fucking
Yeah.
truly inspirational
Yeah.
work, and it's like the profile picture is like some cheeks, and you're like, all right. It's
God.
so weird, man. It feels dystopian, but at the same time,
you could do a whole AI
we're
episode
living in it. So
Such a great movie. It's like a song. Oh, thank you. That's, I appreciate that.
But hey,
yeah, it's a weird. Yeah.
But that was. I mean, to bring it all full circle. I mean, MySpace being that safe space bubble where before all this shit existed and all the scamming and all the fucking shit. I mean, you get catfished. That was about the worst of it. You might get catfished by someone pretending to be someone, but they were still at least a real person on the other end of it. You know what I mean? Like at least they were a human being.
Oh
and not
no, the AI catfish.
a prompt.
Oh no.
Now it's all Oh, my aunt. Oh, yeah, like your relative or something being like, "Oh, I'm talking to Post Malone on Instagram, and he needs a gift card for $500. I'm gonna send it to him tomorrow." Like, oh, Jesus God. But anyways,
that's something. Yeah, and that happens. Like, it seems ridiculous, but that stuff is happening as we're talking, like right now. So that's.
I don't know. There's someone out there paying attention to employees at companies and new hires, because there was one point where like we Sumerian brought in 2 new employees, and within a week somehow they got a text from some random number acting as Ash, asking like, "Hey, this is Ash, your boss, needs you to go to the store and buy some iTunes gift cards and send me the redemption code," or whatever. And like, but how the fuck there's someone out there like paying, like, how did they know? There's some people are getting really deep into trying to scam people, and then the older we get, the worse the worse our eyes get. So that our bullshit X-ray is just gonna stop working as good unless we get glasses. Anyway, AI is a whole other episode. I'm sorry to. The singularity is enclosing on us.
Oh no, but that's a topic that I think it's fair to say we talk.
We talk about this all the fucking time.
So it's but it's a really big topic. It's super controversial. So musically and artistically, we have those discussions. I'm always trying to be mindful when I say that, because I don't.
I know we're trying to wrap it up, but to tie this back to graphic design too, like I mentioned earlier, I'm not doing a whole lot of stuff that is that I'm just creating from scratch, from the ground up. I've been discouraged recently because the last couple bands that I've tried to work with, not last couple, but there was a band I tried to work with, and they were sending me references, which were obviously AI, and I was like, okay, I can do better than this. But then they start taking what I give them and taking that into AI and be like, no, can you do something more like this? And at that point, I felt like violated. I was just like, or can we do something completely different and just change the setting and all? But if there's any like graphic designers that are watching this podcast, like, the only words is like, get a deposit, non-refundable, but non-refundable after the first revisions have been made, to be fair. You know what I mean? Like, make it so you're not going to get screwed, because again, you're probably going to run into a band that, like I said earlier, you think you're talking to the person in charge, and then you're going to find out later that the bass player's girlfriend's roommate saw it and has an idea all of a sudden. And but I was very discouraged. Well, what if we do this completely different, scene and like entirely, and just like this Mid-Journey output, and I'm just like, oh my god, why am I bothering?
Because it makes it makes it seem like the work that would be needed to do this in a human way should be as easy as the prompt that they're putting in, right?
That's where I got to the point. It's like, if you're why don't you just put that out? Just put it out. Or what's wrong? Are you fucking scared? Do you think you're gonna there's a lot of backlash these days. So they ended up going with something that I'm pretty sure is AI generated. I'm not going to throw them under the bus or anything, but kill fee, Reagan Pagan. Exactly. That's non-refundable deposits.
No, but it's just, to me, it's just basic respect, though. In that sense, like, you don't take somebody's art and run it through AI. If and I apologize for saying that, if you have like half a brain, like, it's just not something you do. And also, the way I see it, if you want to start from scratch, right? Like, you did a revision and they're like, oh, let's do this instead. Then it's another project. You're starting a new project. So they should, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
you're
that's
asking the artist to start from scratch, but he already worked. So you pay for like what he just did, and then you switch direction. That's how I see it, at
oh
least.
yeah, lost you there for a second. But yeah, it's you can hear me all right
Yeah,
still?
yeah, you're
Everything
good.
good?
You're good.
Okay.
Yeah, I skipped for a second, but we're all good.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's very much to the point where it was one thing like 10 years ago when they would take my artwork and run it through an Instagram filter and be like, can you have it more like the fucking Rio de Janeiro filter or something like that? But now it's like, yeah, they like bastardizing the entire thing. But yeah, that's why you, as a graphic designer, you ask questions of like, okay, well, what are you thinking? Like, let's get all on the same page before I dive in, and please pay me a deposit before I start spending any time on this. But yeah, man, like, if it gets to the point where you as a designer have to pull the plug and you just know it's not going to happen, or you're not going to be satisfied with the end result, there's a lot of stuff I've done that I'm not necessarily proud of, but it just had to get done and the client was happy and I was okay with that. uh might may or may not be on my website, or my portfolio moving forward, but sometimes you just kind of, as the designer, you become the pencil and you're just doing what the client's making you do.
Like a
But
tattoo artist, I would say, right? Like, it's kind of similar in that.
yeah,
I'm sure they don't. Sometimes they
Yeah,
do a
well,
tattoo, and in their mind, they're
any
like, "Oh
commissioned
God,
art,
that's
but
yeah,
I can sympathize, with what I said earlier about
yeah,
not doing much art anymore, with the feeling still of working on something that
I'm
is gonna
gonna
come out
yeah,
and not feeling great about it,
I'm gonna reserve, what creative juices I have for the clients that actually trust me and that
Yeah,
I've worked with in the past and that come to me for a reason. I feel like it's every designer and artist's goal to get to a point to where people come to you to do your thing, and not like, hey, I have this idea that's completely outside your wheelhouse, can you do it? It's like, maybe,
yeah,
but um I just want to be, I want to be like a reliable source for people that like it's the best feeling in the world as a graphic designer, where you ask a band like, can you show me some references of what you have in mind, and then they send you your own
your
work,
own. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
yeah.
That's
not like
it.
fucking 3 or 4 or 5 other people's shit. It's like, oh, right away it's like, okay, this could be an easy ride, or at least in comparison. But um that's always the best. And I've been fortunate enough to, still, I'm not working at Sumerian anymore, but a lot of these bands still come to me for things, and they do it because they can trust me and I'm reliable, I would hope. And um yeah, that's the thing. There's so many talented designers and artists that are incredibly talented, but they might not be reliable, or maybe they are reliable, but they're just kind of a shitty person, or they're a punisher and they're emailing you. You
Yeah.
just got to find that like perfect middle of the Venn diagram spot of being like good, but also not a shitty person, but also not a flake, and being reliable. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like,
Respecting yourself,
yeah,
and
yeah, all these things are come into play. But yeah, it took a while to I hope I'm in that spot now where people just like come to me to do my thing, and they're not asking me to do something that I don't want to do, or that I don't think I can do. Because I can't really hire people out anymore. I'm not an art director. I can't pull money
Yeah.
out of my own pocket to have someone else do something. So if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. If I'm not going to do it, I'm going to send them
To
somewhere
someone
else.
else who
So
can. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Cool,
All right.
man. Well, dude, thank you so much for taking the time to do this, man. This was a really fun chat.
it was awesome. Yeah,
And like I said, I mean, we'd have a we're having a hard time wrapping this up because there's just so much to talk about. So
I know. I am really curious. I am really curious though, who you ended up talking to when you were doing your research on me.
I talked to Artie a bit. He was sending me
Okay.
a whole bunch of stuff. We'll have to reconvene on some of that stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure everything is kind of a blur in those days, especially with bands like that, if you know what I mean. So yeah, we'll catch up for sure. I'll keep in touch with you guys. But yeah, we can chat for hours. If you ever need a last second guess again, hit me up. I'll come in my little cave here and chat all day.
We're gonna invite for sure. Like as he said, like we need another episode. I mean, you know, you saw many questions we had. Still now I have like a million. So we're gonna have.
Honestly, we didn't really even talk about Last House that much. Now that I'm thinking about it, so yeah, we'll have to do that.
That's what
again,
I noticed. Like halfway, I'm like, we didn't touch that much, you know.
Yeah. So, well, look, sorry if I got too deep. And
no, dude. I mean, we're here for it, man. Like,
I love that stuff.
Yeah, we're both really into. For what it's worth, we're both really into all things visual and graphic design and stuff like that. Music videos, and anything.
Stories, the thing when you would have bands at your place, stuff like that. It's great to hear about.
But what I wanted to say about that is that it's rare. We always would love to talk to creatives, but it's a harder sell for us to do just a creative that also doesn't have a band to talk about.
Yeah.
So talking about the Venn diagram, you're a cool person to have on. So yes, we did indulge a little bit more in the graphic design, but I think that's, you know, that's super
because
cool.
we were waiting for that.
Yeah, we haven't been able too much. So I think all that is super cool. So
we are the Punisher for
we're the Punisher
like,
scenario.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. No, it was fun for real.
Yeah, thank you guys. You guys are awesome. Thank you for to say again, it's surrounded by 10 million miles of sand. To know that people 20 years later still think about Last House on the Left is so fucking cool. Like I said again, we didn't tour much and didn't really get to hear from people of like, you know, we'll get a message every once in a while of, oh, you guys are so cool, but like, or whatever. I really enjoy listening to you guys, whatever they say, but to really like get in depth and talk about not just that era, but about my band in particular, it's a trip. I'm not taking it lightly, so I appreciate it. Very proud of those albums and you know what we did together. So thank you for validating all that stuff's existence. Yeah, appreciate it.
You're welcome. And we're gonna redo it again, and we're gonna talk even more about music. So that's gonna happen.
Yes, sir, dude. Well, dude, thank you. Thank you so much, man. We'll let you get on with the rest of your night, but we'll keep in touch. All right, my man.
Awesome. All right. Take care.
All right. Have a good one, man.
Thanks.
You too. Bye.
If you made it to the end of this episode, thank you for watching. And hey, while you're here, hit that subscribe or follow button and a review. If you're watching or listening on a podcast platform, it would mean the world and it helps out more than you know. A big thank you as well to all of our supporters over on Patreon and on Twitch. New episodes every week, links to our Patreon, Discord, and socials in the description. We'll see you soon. We're out.